Hello and welcome to ICSE Examsquad. Today we are going to cover a new chapter which is After Blenheim. It is written by Robert Southey. It is an anti-war poem. This poem is set at the site of the Battle of Blenheim 1704 with a question of two children about a skull which one of them has found. Their grandfather, an old man, tells them of burnt homes, civilian casualties, and rotting corpses, while repeatedly calling it a famous victory. The poem depicts the common man's ignorance of the motives of war. Let us move on to the poem now. It was a summer evening. Old Caspar's work was done, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun, and by him spotted on the green his little grandchild Wilhelmine. The first stanza sets the tone and the atmosphere for the narration and reflection. It was a simple summer evening and the place was the cottage of an elderly farmer whose name was Caspar. Caspar was sitting in the sun before his cottage door and his granddaughter, whose name is Wilhelmine, was playing on the field by him. She saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round, which he beside the rivulet in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. Here, rivulet means like a small stream. Wilhelmine saw her brother Peterkin roll a skull which he had found beside the stream while playing there. He wanted to find out from Caspar, his grandfather, what it was. Old Caspar took it from the boy, who stood expectant by. Expectant here means expecting or hoping to get a reply. And then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh, "'Tis some poor fellow's skull," said he. In this stanza, old Caspar took the skull from the Peterkin and replied that it was a skull of some poor man who was killed in the war. That means the skull is of the soldier who had been died while fighting in the war. I find them in the garden, for there's many here about, and often when I go to plug, the plugshare turns them out. In this stanza, he continued saying that he found many such skulls all over the farm while plugging, because many thousand men were killed in the battle that was known for its victory. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. Though Caspar says that many thousand men had died in the war, he kept calling it as great. Now tell us what was all about, young Peterkin, he cries, and little Wilhelmine looks up with wonder-waiting eyes. Now tell us all about the war and what they fought each other for. Here, wonder-waiting eyes means expecting to see and hear exciting things. In this stanza, young Peterkin and little Wilhelmine asked their grandfather to tell them about the purpose of the war, while the little Wilhelmine looked up at his grandfather with anticipation. It was the English, Caspar cried, who put the French to rout, but what they fought each other for I could not well make out. But everybody said, quoth he, that was a famous victory. In this stanza, Caspar said in reply that English defeated the French in the war, but he could not tell why they fought, and he could only say that it was a famous victory. My father lived at Blenheim then, yon little stream hard by. They burned this dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So with his wife and child he fled, nor had he where to rest his head. In the course of narration, Caspar told the children that his own father had lived at Blenheim. Soldiers burnt his father's house and he was forced to leave the place with his wife and child. Thus they became homeless. With fire and sword the country round was wasted far and wide, and many a childing mother then and newborn baby died. But things like that must be at every famous victory. The war itself was terrible. Fire and sword destroyed everything. Many pregnant women and newborn babies died. Such things, Caspar ironically stated, take place at every battle where there is a great victory. They say it was a shocking sight after the field was won, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. But things like that, must be after a famous victory. It was reported that it was a shocking sight at the battlefield where thousands of dead bodies lay rotting in the sun. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough won, and our good Prince Eugene. Why it was a very big thing, said little Wellman. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. However, the Duke of Marlborough and the Prince Eugene won great praise for the victory. Little Wellman said that it was a big thing. Caspar replied ironically that it was a famous victory. The poem ends with everybody praising the duck. Peterkin asked what good came out of the war. Caspar said that he could not answer the question. He could only say that it was a famous victory. This poem reflects the theme of man's cruelty to man, whereas curiosity and lack of human compassion and humanity. Besides this, it also reflects the complacency of old Caspar, accepting the loss of innocent lives in the Battle of Blenheim and accepting it as a glorious victory.